Seen from the air, islands can look like paradise. A ring of white sand, dense green forest, water so clear it barely seems real. But some islands hold a very different story. Places where one wrong landing, one wrong step, or one wrong decision can turn beauty into catastrophe. On one island off Brazil, the ground itself seems to move with venomous snakes. In Indonesia, giant lizards still dominate the landscape like survivors from another age. South of Tokyo, an island volcano has filled the air with toxic gas so dangerous that people once carried gas masks as part of everyday life. In the Pacific, one tropical atoll still carries the radioactive legacy of nuclear testing. And in the Bay of Bengal, one island is so fiercely closed to the outside world that even approaching its shore can be fatal. These are not myths, they are real islands shaped by isolation, evolution, geology, and history. And together, they reveal a simple truth. Islands do not just separate land from water. Sometimes they isolate danger until it becomes something far more extreme. About 20 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, a small island rises from the Atlantic in steep rocky slopes and tangled vegetation. Its name is Ilha da Queimada Grande. Many people know it by another name, Snake Island. The island is closed to the public, and for good reason. It is the only home of the golden lancehead, a highly venomous pit viper found nowhere else on Earth. In most places, snakes compete with other predators and spread across larger landscapes. Here, isolation changed the rules. Cut off from the mainland thousands of years ago, the island's snakes adapted to a place with few large mammals and a steady supply of migrating birds. That shift mattered. A bird can fly away after being bitten, so on this island, speed became everything. The golden lancehead evolved venom that acts quickly on prey, making escape less likely. On steep trails, among low branches and broken stone, the danger is not dramatic in a Hollywood way. It is quieter than that. A movement in leaves, a pale coil against a branch, a strike measured in fractions of a second. The legends around Snake Island are often exaggerated, but the real story does not need embellishment. This is a restricted island where one endemic predator came to dominate an enclosed world, a place where isolation sharpens survival into something lethal. And Snake Island is only the beginning, because some islands do not hide their danger in the undergrowth. They walk in full view. East of Bali, inside Indonesia's Komodo National Park, the hills turn dry and brown under the sun. The air is hot, the grass brittle, and the trails wind through open savanna, thorny brush, and pockets of monsoon forest. This is Komodo Island, one of the last places on Earth where giant reptiles still rule the food chain. The Komodo dragon can reach lengths of around 10 feet and weigh more than many adult humans. It is not a fantasy creature. It is a cold-blooded ambush predator built from muscle, claws, serrated teeth, and patience. It can smell carrion and blood from long distances, lie still for hours, then explode into motion with startling speed. For years, people repeated the idea that Komodo dragons killed with dirty bacteria in their mouths. Research has pointed instead to venom glands that help drive shock and blood loss in prey. Either way, the result is the same. A dragon's bite is dangerous, and on these islands, people move accordingly. Rangers carry forked poles, visitors stay with guides. Distance matters. That tension is part of what makes Komodo so unsettling. The island is bright, open, even beautiful. Deer move through the grass, the sea beyond the hills flashes turquoise, and somewhere nearby, often in plain sight,
A predator older than human memory is watching the path. But not every deadly island depends on teeth or venom. Some become dangerous because the landscape itself begins to breathe.
Roughly 110 miles south of Tokyo lies Miyake-jima, a volcanic island ringed by dark shoreline, dense forest, and the restless Pacific. At a glance, it can look calm, but the island is dominated by Mount Oyama, a volcano with a long eruptive history, and in 2000, that history turned into crisis. After a series of eruptions and collapse events, enormous volumes of volcanic gas began escaping from the island. Sulfur dioxide spread through the air in concentrations high enough to force the evacuation of the entire population. For years, Miyake-jima became a place defined by what could not be seen clearly: invisible gas drifting through roads, fields, and neighborhoods. When residents were eventually allowed to return, daily life came with conditions. Monitoring systems tracked the air, alerts warned of rising concentrations. Masks became a practical tool, not a symbol. Schools, homes, and fishing ports existed in the shadow of a mountain that could make the air itself unsafe. That is what makes Miyake-jima so unnerving. The island was not abandoned because of a single explosion and then forgotten. People came back. They rebuilt routines in a place where danger could move on the wind. No predator, no enemy, just chemistry, geology, and the limits of the human body. And then there are islands where the deadliest threat did not evolve there and did not erupt there. We brought it. Far out in the Marshall Islands, Bikini Atoll looks almost impossibly serene. Coconut palms bend over pale sand. The lagoon glows in shades of blue that seem almost artificial. But in the 20th century, this atoll became one of the most consequential landscapes in the nuclear age. Between 1946 and 1958, Bikini was used for nuclear weapons testing after its people were displaced from their home. The explosions transformed the atoll into a global symbol. Ships were blasted in the lagoon. Coral, soil, and vegetation were contaminated. Fallout entered the environment and altered lives far beyond the instant of detonation. In photographs, the contrast is almost unbearable. Tropical stillness above, invisible contamination below. For decades, the question of whether people could safely return remained tied to radiation, food pathways, cleanup, and long-term risk. The danger here does not roar or chase, it persists. Bikini Atoll changes the meaning of a deadly island. It is not only a place of natural hazard, it is proof that human power can render even the most beautiful islands hazardous for generations. A paradise turned into a warning. And that brings us to the final island, and perhaps the most unsettling of all, because here, the danger is immediate, undeniable, and deeply human. In the Bay of Bengal, west of the southern tip of Myanmar, and within India's Andaman and Nicobar archipelago, North Sentinel Island sits behind surf, reef, and forest. From a distance, it looks like many tropical islands, but North Sentinel is different because its people have made one thing clear for as long as outsiders have tried to approach: stay away. The Sentinelese are indigenous people living in voluntary isolation. India protects the island and restricts access, not only because visitors are unwelcome, but because contact itself could be catastrophic. Outside diseases, against which isolated populations may have little immunity, can be as dangerous as weapons, and the Sentinelese have repeatedly defended their island from intruders. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chau was killed after illegally attempting to reach the island. The incident shocked the world, but it also reinforced a truth long understood by anthropologists and Indian authorities.
North Sentinel Island is not a place for curiosity, tourism, or conquest. It is one of the clearest surviving boundaries on Earth between the modern outside world and a people determined to keep it out. That is what makes the island so powerful in this story. Its danger does not come from monsters or extreme wildlife. It comes from a collision of worlds and from the refusal of one small community to let that collision happen on outside terms.
5 islands, 5 very different forms of danger. One shaped by venom, one by apex predators, one by toxic gas, one by radiation, one by human isolation defended at the shoreline. What links them is not just risk, it is concentration. Islands take the forces that shape the wider world and compress them. Evolution becomes more specialized, disasters become harder to escape, human mistakes become harder to contain, boundaries become absolute. That is why islands can feel so unforgettable and so unforgiving. On a continent, danger can spread out. On an island, it can take over. And sometimes, the most beautiful places on Earth are the ones that make the clearest case for distance.